Good morning. Good morning. I'm giving an update on the TANF welfare funding scam out of Mississippi. And if you've watched the video, and if you haven't, please go and watch the video so you will have, a clearer understanding and more information about this. And I'm just going to do an update on it. Is that now there is alleged text messages out there between former Governor Phil Bryant and Brett Favre. Now, most of you know who Brett Favre is. He is a former NFL player, star quarterback that played over 2 decades in the National Football League. He made over $140 million in salary and endorsements. And then former Governor Phil Bryant was over the state of Mississippi. And so they are caught up in a scandal. Now, they haven't been charged, but they have been caught up in a scandal of welfare fraud and using the temporary assistance for needy families welfare program funding. And we call it TANF, okay? And so, like I said in my first video, I do think that it is very, very grievous and a miscarriage of justice to not charge everyone, because we know that Nancy knew she was over 2 nonprofits and her sons were involved, and Nancy and one of her sons have taken a plea deal, and then Jess was ordered to pay a certain dollar amount, and overall the dollar amount was $19.4 million in restitution with this family. And then you have some other key players, a former pro wrestler, and other people involved that promised to, give coding classes. Brett Favre promised speeches, motivational speeches, and different things like that. And they used the guise of a lease, when in fact they were embezzling or stealing the money, scamming the money from this particular TANF welfare program to use to build a volleyball complex or sports complex and a volleyball stadium. And you are aware that his daughter attended the University of Mississippi, which is Brett Favre's alma mater. And so he is involved in this, and he claims that he never knew that the money was coming from DHS, which is just not true, because he did know, allegedly, from these text messages, from the evidence that's been put out here. And him and the former mayor of Mississippi, governor, excuse me, of Mississippi, have not been formally charged, but they are involved in this scandal. And also Davis, who was over the MDHS, he has been indicted, he's been charged, but his trial is coming up in the future. And there's other ones that have been charged, and Deputy Black, who was the deputy for John Davis, he actually has been ordered to pay money back as well, and I believe it was $3 million or $3.2 million, because he was instrumental in creating these grants that were suspicious and questionable. And so there's a lot of key players. And so Deputy Black was, while he was working for Mr. Davis, he was also gathering information against Mr. Davis so that he can report it back to former Phil Bryant. So if you think about it, and Davis also, they said he misused government funding, the welfare funding. And so they all was in cahoots, and they all knew each other. And I just want to let you know that they all knew each other. They had ties. And former Governor Phil Bryant, he appointed certain people and elected people. I mean, not elected, but appointed people and put them in those positions. And even Shad White, who has close ties to former Phil Bryant, now he's speaking a different tune. So, about this. So, uh, so he helped Brett Favre secure welfare funding for USM volleyball stadium. Text revealed, and I'll say allegedly. So never before seen text message. So former Governor Phil Bryant tried to shepherd a proposal to use welfare funds on the construction of a new volleyball stadium for retired NFL player Brett Favre, a project prosecutors have called a scheme to defraud the government. Bryant has previously denied any involvement with the project, which has emerged as the centerpiece of a massive criminal scandal in which prominent officials misspent or stole millions in welfare funds intended for the nation's poorest residents. Okay? And text messages entered Monday into the state's ongoing civil lawsuit over the welfare scandal revealed that former Governor Phil Bryant push to make NFL legend Brett Favre's volleyball ideal a reality. The text showed that the then governor even guided Favre on how to write a funding proposal so that it could be accepted by the Mississippi Department of Human Services, even after Bryant ousted the former welfare agency director John Davis for suspected fraud. Just left Brett Favre, Bryant text nonprofit founder Nancy New in July of 2019. In 2019, within weeks of Davis' departure. Can we help him with his project? We should meet him soon to see how I can make sure we keep your projects on course. When Favre asked Bryant how the new agency director might affect their plans to fund the volleyball stadium, bingo, right there. Let me stop right there. Don't tell me he didn't know. Because he was dealing with former Bryant governor, Phil Bryant. Also, when he says that, then he obviously knew that Davis was over the MDHS. So how can you say you never knew where the funds allegedly were going to come from? So Bryant assured him, I will handle that. Long story, but had to make a change. But I will call Nancy and see what it will take, according to the filing in a text Favre forwarded to New. The newly released text, filed Monday by an attorney representing Nancy New's nonprofit, showed that Bryant, Favre, New, Davis, and others worked together to channel at least $5 million of the state's welfare funds to build a new volleyball stadium at University of Southern Mississippi, where Favre's daughter played the sport. Favre received most of the credit for raising funds to construct the facility. Now, he received credit, but the money came from TANF, okay? Came from the Department of Mississippi Welfare, okay, Human Services. Now, Bryant has for years denied any close involvement in the steering of welfare funds to the volleyball stadium, though plans for the project even included naming the building after him, one text show. And I'm going to get to those text messages, but I just want to give you a recap and an update on this, because some of this information is actually updated information that wasn't in the first video that I did. So New, was a friend of Bryant's wife, Deborah, that ran a nonprofit, and she was charged with spending tens of millions of flexible federal welfare dollars outside of public view. So that's an update. So that's, a recap. That's a recap. And then what followed was the biggest public fraud case in state history. According to the state auditor's office, nonprofit leaders had misspent at least $77 million in funds that were supposed to help the needy, forensic auditors found. And so, again, a recap. New pleaded guilty to 13 felony counts related to the scheme, and Davis awaits trial, as I stated. But neither Bryant nor Favre have been charged with any crime, which I had stated in the first video. They haven't been charged, but in my opinion, they should be charged. And so the scheme it's a state-of-the-art facility. Now, it was supposed to be able to help, families that go there and get resources and motivational speakers, motivational speeches and different things like that to help families, rise up out of poverty, and things like that. So, and it says right here that, according to one of the criminal defendants' plea agreement, the state is not pursuing the matter in its ongoing civil complaint. Current Governor Tate Reeves abruptly fired the attorney bringing the state's case when he tried to subpoena documents, which you knew that. And the message also showed that a separate $1.1 million welfare contract Favre received to promote the program, the subject of many national headlines, was simply a way to get more funding to the volleyball project. And when it first came out, when it first broke that he was, ordered to pay the money back and where it had come from. And he said originally that he never knew where this money had came from. So, and now here it is where he's saying, I could record a few radio spots, Favre text New, according to the new filing, and whatever compensation could go to USM. And so now, New is aiding them as part of her plea deal, which I said in the first video. She's cooperating with the authorities, the prosecutors. And so it's alleged that Bryant directed her to make the payment to Favre in a bombshell response to the complaint in July. And so the allegations of defense are not based on speculation or conjecture, the Monday court filing reads. What they're saying is the evidence suggested MDHS executives, including Governor Bryant, knew that Favre was seeking funds from MDHS to build the volleyball facility and participated in directing, approving, or providing Favre MDHS funds to be used for construction of the volleyball facility. The latest motion, filed on behalf of News nonprofit Mississippi Community Education Center, represents the first time these messages, which include text directly between New and Bryant and New and Favre, have been made public. The messages are printed here exactly as they appear in the filing without corrections. And so here we are, with these text messages. And so there are some motions that have been put out, that have been filed, text messages, which is not the entire text threads, is what they're saying. It only reflects one side of the story. Of course, they're going to say that, but again, I'm not going to, read the whole article because a lot of it is, a recap, but then there's a lot in here that's not, as far as what I've read, there are some things in here that are not a recap. They're actually, some new information. And this right here, it says, we do not believe a protective order shielding the governor's documents from public view and thus limiting our ability to use them in open court or public pleadings in support of our defense is appropriate. See, they're trying to shield these text messages with former Governor Phil Bryant. And I don't think they should shield them. The information needs to be out there. If you're going to charge some people, you need to charge everybody that's involved in stealing money, embezzling this money, and misappropriating these funds. I don't believe in just only holding certain people accountable. When you get the evidence, after the discovery of evidence, you do need to hold everyone accountable for their part that they played in this. And I say this with this major case that's ongoing now. How is one person on trial? I mean, it's so disgusting, and it's definitely, a miscarriage of justice in our judicial system. And when we see these things, we ought to speak out. And so I'm going to continue to speak out about this, because if you're wrong, you're wrong. And these people are wrong for stealing this money. They're trying to say he's been honorable through the whole thing. No, he hasn't, because he's saying he denied the money came from there. Brett Favre has not been honorable during this whole thing, because he knew where the money was coming from. He knew that Nancy New had two nonprofits, and she was receiving money from the Department of Mississippi Human Services Welfare Department. He knew those things. You can't tell me this man didn't know. And this is allegedly, according to these articles here, but he knew. And I'm not going to say that he didn't know. He did know. And he's trying to say he didn't know. Yes, he did. And he paid the money back. But except for the interest that they're asking him to pay back, he hadn't paid that back as of yet that I'm aware of. I haven't seen any updates on that, but they both knew. And the former governor was working alongside Brett Favre and Nancy New, and they ought to be held accountable just like the rest of these people. There should not be no selective accountability. There should not be no selective, we're going to hold them accountable, we're not going to hold them accountable. And you're trying to not hold this former governor accountable, but you're quick to hold other people accountable. But see, I'm not going to get into the race stuff, but at the end of the day, let me tell you something. These text messages are out there, and it says it right here, and I'm going to read a part right here, and then I'm going to show you some of the text messages, and there's even more. So this article, you can look it up, and you can see the text messages, some more of them in here, and it says Davis, he immediately committed to the $4 million to the project according to the motion, while Favre was pleased with MDHS $4 million commitment. See that? MDHS. He know who MDHS. It's the Mississippi Department of Human Services. He was pleased with it, that they had committed. See what I'm saying? So how are you saying you didn't know where these funds were coming from if you was pleased with the $4 million commitment? You know what? We're not on the slow bus, people. We're not in the back of the bus just lollygagging around. We know, we understand, common sense, and it says he knew a state-of-the-art volleyball facility was likely to cost more, the filing reads, To make matters worse, USM apparently had a policy that any construction project on campus had to be funded fully and the money deposited in USM's account before construction could begin. Now, Favre thought of a way to get some extra cash to the program. Even more money could flow through his company in exchange for the athlete cutting ads for the state's welfare program. New says she thought it was a good idea. So you telling me he didn't know? So was just thinking that here is the way to do it, Favre text. Only days after Favre received the financial commitment from Davis, he had grown impatient with USM, which was moving slowly. Favre contacted Governor Bryant to speed things along. In response, Governor Bryant called Nancy New. The motion reads, wow, New text Favre, just got off the plane with Phil Bryant. He is on board with us. We will get this done. The governor remained in tune on the project as it progressed. On November 2nd, 2017, New text Favre, I saw the governor last night. It's all going to work out. And then 4 days later, News nonprofit paid the first lump sum of $2.5 million. It paid another $2.5 million on December 5th, 2017, according to the state's auditor's office report released in 2020. Favre also received his first payment under the advertising agreement of $500,000 in December 2017. Nancy Santa came today and dropped some money off, Favre text. New that day. Thank you. My goodness, thank you. We need to set up the promo for you soon. Your way is kind. The nonprofit paid the athlete another $600,000 in June 2018. By 2019, the cost of the construction for the volleyball center grew, and Favre had committed to pay more than $1 million himself that he expected to receive from MDHS. The athlete became antsy. According to a calendar entry entered by Davis, Bryant and Favre requested to meet with welfare officials about the USM facility in January 2019. Welfare officials, okay? Favre nudged the welfare officials who promised to help, but the state agency and nonprofits were in financial turmoil. Months went by with no USM payments. In June of 2019, Bryant ousted Davis after an MDHS employee came forward with a tip about suspected fraud. Bryant replaced Davis with former FBI Special Agent in Charge, Christopher Freeze. Now, you see how they got rid of Davis, saying that he suspected a fraud, but former Governor Bryant was in on it also. So that's why I'm saying he needs to be held accountable as well, and Favre as well. Now, when Favre asked Bryant if Davis' departure would affect the project, according to the motion, the governor responded, I will handle that, ... Long story, but had to make a change. But I will call Nancy and see what it will take. Just left Brett Favre, Brian then text New. Can we help him with his project? We should meet soon to see how I can make sure we keep your projects on course. Later that day, New text Favre to tell him that she would be meeting with the governor in 2 days. He wants me to continue to help you and us get our project done, she said. And with the new guard in place at the top of the welfare agency, Favre and New tried to put together a proposal for more volleyball funding that would pass the smell test. Part of their plan was to put Bryant's name on the building, according to one text from New to Favre. Favre relayed to New that Bryant said New would have to submit proper paperwork to MDHS. Again, MDHS, you guys, MDHS, the Mississippi Department of Human Services. You cannot tell me that Brett did not know about that. He is, University of Mississippi is his alma mater. And even though he doesn't reside in Mississippi anymore, his daughter went there. He knew exactly. And so he's trying to say that he did not know, but I'm going to keep saying that he did know. Now, while the governor's text to Favre said New needed to get the paperwork in, the governor confided to Favre on a call that he had already seen Favre's proposal. Favre text New, the governor said to me just a second ago that he has seen the funding proposal, but hint, hint, that you need to reword it to get it accepted. Reads New's motion. See, hint, hint, you need to change it. We need to disguise this type of the money, where it's coming from, so we can get this approved. That's Brett, you guys. The same guy we watched play football for over 2 decades. Yeah. So at the end of the day, no, I'm not against this guy, but I'm against what he did. Because I still say this is our taxpayers' money. It's federal dollars that went to the state of Mississippi to help needy families so that they don't have to continue to struggle. And you know that most of the families that's struggling, a lot of them, they are families of color. They are black families that are struggling. And when I saw the interview with that mom talking about how one year they approved her for child care and the next year they didn't, and that because she was told there's just no money when she was interviewed. And they told her there's just no money. Now you see why there's just no money, because it was used for something other than what it should have been used for. And this was a mother, a single mother that was working. So it wasn't like she was just sitting on welfare collecting checks and not trying to better herself and take care of her family. And so when we look at these type of things, we say all the time that we want people to be able to work, that are able to work. There's nothing wrong with collecting benefits when there is a need, but you get up and you work. And so when we see people stealing money, scamming money, and taking money from well-needed programs that can help people do better in life, we have to speak up, because we know the difference between oppression. We know the difference between the rich. And if we're going to talk about it and bridge the gap, so that other people can get across the bridge, we got to continue to build bridges, right? For other people to get across the bridge. And if you're stealing money and the bridge is falling down and it needs repair, how can folks trust to get across the bridge when they know that the bridge might fall down when they're trying to walk across it? So when you're stealing money, when you're embezzling money, and it comes out that there's other people involved that have not been charged, yes, they need to be. They need to be charged. These two people that had something to do with it, they're saying that they didn't. And no one should be from immunity. I'm getting tired of this immunity nonsense, because the truth don't need no help. If you're telling the truth, nobody needs immunity. And it didn't say that they were getting immunity, but it almost sounds like that if they get on the stand, they might be given immunity to testify, because they know they was wrong and they're trying to protect two public officials. And one was an icon that everybody watched, that most of the people that are into football sat here and watched this man play football for over 2 decades and make a good salary, and you have to steal from the Department of Mississippi Human Services, taking out of needy people's mouth. And I'm saying that with passion, because I'm not happy with this nonsense, with them not bringing them to accountability. They need to be, held to accountability about what they have done. And this is really sad that they're trying to paint one picture, but the picture clearly says that they knew about this money and they were rewording the contract. They put it under a guise as it was a lease, when all along it was a facility that was being built with welfare money. And to be exact, TANF funds, temporary assistance to needy families of the state of Mississippi. Hear me on that, okay? And so they go on to say, New had questions about how to reword the proposal. Now, New, was the one that pleaded guilty, and she's turning folks in. She said it was time to stop turning the other cheek in my previous video, okay? And I don't blame her. Tell the truth. Why should you be the only one go down? And this is real. We're talking about people's livelihood. And I'm not giving her a pass, but she pleaded guilty to it. But they used her. The former governor used her. He was the one directing those payments. She was just following orders. But look at where she's at. She's like the one that's taking the brunt of this whole thing, okay? And from what this other person, this guy said that they interviewed, he came out and spoke, and he said that, that she lost everything, and that she was really a good person, but she got in over her head. And that does happen when you get caught up in politics, and you have connections, and people start coming to you for connections, and then you get caught up. She got caught up. And that's why I said, when I do these videos, when we're talking about the Joyce Meyer book, how we need to stop trying to appease and appease people, and stop trying to appease people. Stop, going along with public, with trying to get attention. We got to be, be free from comparison, and the need for approval, because we talk about that, the need for approval, and maybe she felt the need for approval somewhere in there. And she was friends with the former governor's wife, Deborah, so maybe there was a need for approval, and that's where she got in over her head, because she had a need for approval, and because she was allegedly with these two nonprofits. I believe, in my opinion, that she didn't want to do wrong, that she really wanted to do what was right, but she got caught up with these people that were like, these two public officials, two public figures, And look at where she's at now. She's lost everything. Faced charges, took a plea deal to stay out of state prison, and she has to cooperate. You know, there's a lot. There's a lot at stake here. You know, the stakes are high. The stakes are high. And so she had, but instead of having a conversation directly with the governor, she relied on what the governor would tell Favre. See what I'm saying? Look at this. And so hopefully she can put more details in the proposal. Bryant said, according to a text Favre forwarded to New, like how many times the facility will be used and how many child or children, should be children to me, how many children will be served and for what specific purpose. See, they were just trying to put that in there, but they really didn't have a plan of action about how the facility will really be used to support children and families. They were just putting that in there, but they didn't have a plan of action. They didn't have a genuine, specific plan of action. Because if you're going to do the right thing and write a plan of action, a specific plan of action, then you will have that information already written up or working on it. And they would have been looking at that to see what needed to be added or taken out or corrected or reworded, because you would have had a genuine, specific plan of action that they did not have. Okay? And so it says, Favre later text, I really feel like he is trying to figure out a way to get it done without actually saying it. Don't tell me he didn't know. I'm getting back to that. He did know. And Favre knew Bryant and Freeze met in September 2019 to discuss progress on the new facility. Though the text illustrates the government's support for the program around that time, Bryant said in an April 22 interview with Mississippi Today that he rejected the request from New and Favre fund the project further. I stood up and I said no, Bryant told Mississippi Today. I remember a meeting with Nancy New and Chris Freeze, and maybe it was another one and me. And she came in one more time, volleyball, volleyball. And she said, my budgets have been cut and I can't do all these things. And that's another thing. Budgets are cut. So I'm thinking somebody's watching overspending. And then she said, and oh, by the way, can we have the money for the volleyball? And I said, no, we're not spending anything right now. That is terminated. Yeah, because there was some suspicion of a whistleblower, a tip that it came out, but he still was part of that because it still got done. And so he had to step back. You have to take a break away from the chaos, like I always say. Well, he had to step back, so that he can cover himself. And so 2 days after the meeting, New received a letter from the welfare agency informing her that the agency was increasing her TANF sub-grant by $1.1 million, which the letter said was for the purpose of reimbursing payments the nonprofit made to its partners. See, they was on to something. You know what I'm saying? They reinstated this bid process for TANF sub-grants, though New's nonprofit was under investigation. You see what I'm saying? She's taking a fall. She was the one that took the fall for a lot of this, even though other people have been charged, and stuff like that. She took the fall for a lot of this, and Bryant had a lot to do with. Now he's coming back asking her if she received the reward. You see how clever and sneaky and deceptive former Governor Phil Bryant was? And then she says, yes, we did. From all the craziness going on, we've been made to believe we were not getting funded, but we did. See, that's like a setup. Someone was definitely pulling for us behind the scenes. But see, the devil will make you think that they pulling for you behind the scenes. That's how the devil is. He'll make you feel that way, but it's really a setup because she was set up in it too. Because why is she the only one being charged now? Even though the governor had something to do with former Governor Phil Bryant and Brett Favre, but why is she the only one being charged? I'm telling you, the devil will make you think that you getting something. In reality, it's a setup. It is a setup, and that complex was built. It was completed and built, but it was built with TANF welfare program money from the Mississippi Department of Human Services Welfare Department. Okay, so the money was, the funding was submitted, but she was being set up, and she didn't catch it. She was being set up. Cause see, let me tell you something. With all that going on, like she said, the craziness, I would have sent that check back. I would have said, nah, because her nonprofit was already under investigation. So she should have sent that check back and said, nah, I want to pull out of this, but she didn't do that. She kept going. She kept going thinking it was a blessing, but in fact, it was disguised in a setup. And then she was going to be eventually taking a fall, which she did. And she's saying she was a loss right now, I'm at a loss right now trying to save co-workers' jobs. Or be close on the lease. She kept getting involved in it. because she just didn't see the red flag. And there was a big red flag, and she just kept going, um, with this. And so, you know, um, it's really sad, that she got caught up in all this, but she just didn't catch it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you these. See these text messages here? Did y'all get any of the new programs from DHS, Department of Health Services? And that's Phil Bryant. And then Nancy knew, yes, we did, from all the crazy, and she talks about that. And then Phil Bryant has a smiley face. But there's other text messages out here in this article if you care to go in and read it. There's other text messages. I will try to add them in here if I can, because I have them, and I'll try to add them in. But if not, you can go and read this article. I have cited the information for you for your review. But I'm just telling you, this is a mess. And if you believe that Brett Favre, whether you like him or not, and former field Governor Bryant, I don't know if you know him or not, but if you believe that they should also be charged with welfare fraud, please leave your comments below. I like to see what you all think about this. So thank you all for tuning in. God bless you all on today. Peace out.